Arms up. Arms up.
Aloha Maui Nui. Hey, this is Josh Porter here.
Solar Coaster with Jason Verkard and Josh.
This is episode number 44.
44. This number is creeping up on me.
Yeah, we're actually countdown, Jay. It's countdown territory.
Countdown
number
annual.
9 until the anniversary, and I don't know how the heck that happened. But right around the corner, we'll have our anniversary episode. A couple cool things to come there. This episode, number 44, the future of renewable energies with Renewable Energy Commissioner Fred Redell. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Thank you.
Fred Redell. Redell. I got it. And Councilman Don Guzman, also the chair of a bunch of great committees.
Yeah, thank you.
PRL.
PRL, Parks, Recreation, Energy, Legal Affairs Committee.
Well, welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you both here. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. I know you were just in a meeting and you kind of rushed in.
I walked out of council meeting.
All right.
Yeah, I guess we had a couple more votes left. That's how important this radio show was.
We appreciate it.
Makes us feel good.
We're glad to have you here. Thank you for coming
So
in.
if I lose some votes, it's because of the show. Nah, I'm just kidding.
So, well, thank you both for coming in. We're really excited to have you on board right now. This is the Solar Coaster. We're a renewable energy themed talk show right here in lovely Maui County. We have a show every Friday at 1:05 p.m. on KOI 1110 AM. We're also on a couple of FM stations, so 96.7 FM Central, 96.5 FM West Side, 98.7 FM Upcountry. It is a call-in show, 242-7800. 242-7800 is the call-in line. If you'd like to speak with Councilman Don Guzman, and if you'd like to learn more from Fred Redell here, you definitely give us a call, and we'll try to weave it into the show. We got loads of great content to cover. We really want to hear about kind of your vision for what's going to happen in Maui with renewable energy. That's the bottom line, right? I mean, that's what the whole thing is about. And also we have the the Maui Energy Conference. You just got me on that one. Maui Energy Conference coming up next week. So a lot of great things happening there. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking to do here. Jay, you want to tell us about the website?
Sure, absolutely. Go to solar-coaster.com. You can actually listen live if you can't get the AM or FM signals anywhere in the world. You can actually jump in the studio with us. You want to see what these guys look like? Get on the website there. Click on the live stream link. You can get us live on YouTube right now. You can also go back and watch a lot of our past shows. Hit the podcast link. You can listen to everything we've ever done. And of course, on the YouTube channel, we have all the videos that we've ever recorded.
Thank you, Jay.
There's so much. Everything is up there. Finally, if you can't call in during show hours, you do have a question, scroll down the bottom. You can get on our mailing list and or submit a question there. It comes right to our mailbox, and we'll get your question on air, even if you can't be calling live.
We really appreciate that. We get these kind of random, questions, sometimes from Maine or from Arizona or something, and it just gets so exciting.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how far our reach is now.
We are. The reason we're here is because of our sponsors, and we've got a great stable of companies that sponsor the Solar Coaster. Been very loyal and supported us for this last year. So Maui Solar Project, Tabuchi Electric America, Sonnen Battery, Pika Energy, and our newest sponsor, Sundrum Solar. So thank you so much, sponsors, for helping keep the Solar Coaster on the air.
Yeah, you keep us rolling.
All right. An announcement from one of our sponsors, Maui Solar Project. We have a new kiosk in Queen Kalamanu Center Mall. It's kind of an experiment that I've been wanting to try. I wear a couple hats here. I'm a Maui Solar Project person and also the Solar Coaster. So for Maui Solar Project, we wanted to get this thing up and running for years, and now seems to be a great time. There's so much new technology. There's so many opportunities with the utility programs that are emerging, and we want to be able to kind of spread that message right out there, right where everybody's kind of walking around the mall and just going to learn about these things. So do check us out. We're over by the Macy's section, the downstairs.
Which Macy's?
The men's Macy's, right?
Right in front of Champ Sports.
Okay, thank you. There you go. So we got some nice shots there.
And ask them where the bathroom is, because that seems to be the
we get a lot
most
of
predominant question.
All right. We're also on podcast, just to run right through that. iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you're a podcast person, check us out there.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So should we jump into our news and events, fellas?
Let's do the news.
Yeah.
We've got so much to talk about.
All right.
First thing, right out of the gate, is China's power move. This is a really interesting article about how China actually sniped General Electric in a bid for high voltage DC power line.
Right.
And it was actually, where was it? It was from
Pakistan, I think.
Yeah, Pakistan, from Islamabad to somewhere. Really unfortunate that we couldn't take this client.
Well, I think the conversation here, the theme of this is China reaching out into the world and creating these opportunities for renewable energy as it is taking the place of what the U.S. used to do.
China's leading in the solar panel production, wind turbine, and battery manufacturing space now, and they're taking over the power line transmission of HVDC power line transmission, both creation and installation.
Right.
So there's actually a lot of Chinese government and manufacturer workers in Pakistan now installing these lines.
Right. So it's not just that there's dominance in the solar space, but there's kind of outreach.
Energy in its entirety.
Right. I mean, geez. We just heard from, Andre Richter was on the show from Meyer Burger, a tooling manufacturer out of Switzerland, and he was looking at what did he say, a 50 gigawatt solar farm with 1.1 megavolt transmission lines? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Right? And it sounds unprecedented, kind of, right?
Right. That's the kind of HVDC.
Have you ever heard of something of that size, right?
You don't want to touch.
That size, all in one spot, no.
Right? That's pretty unprecedented. It's spectacular. I mean, the notion of that. And what do we mean by 50 gigawatts? Hey, you know what? One of our listeners, he tags me at the end of the show all the time, Fred, and he says, "Josh, giga this, mega that, kilo this. Tell us what it means, right?" So what can you put into scale for us? 50 gigawatts of solar. Is there any way you could do that for us? You seem like you're the only guy to be comfortable asking that question.
You go like a kilo is 1,000, a mega is 1,000,000, and a giga is a billion, right? So you have 1,000 megawatts, right?
Right. In a gigawatt, yeah. But like, how many homes? These are 4 1.1 megavolt lines running from like the west, like 1,500 miles west of Shanghai, all the way to Shanghai.
Well, to give you an idea, let's say the California Independent System Operator operates a grid that's about 55,000 megawatts.
55,000 megawatts. Okay,
so which would be 55 gigawatts.
Okay, a lot more. Okay.
1,000 times.
Right. Okay. So let's take a look at our
conversion.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our next one, Jay. Which one is it? The photovoltaics?
This is photovoltaics. This is actually interesting because in that China Power Move article, there's actually a nice picture of the aerial view solar power plant in a fish pond in
in the previous
China.
one, yeah.
But it's this gorgeous install. I don't know if you guys have seen that picture or not. That's
wow.
For everybody on the live stream can check it out as well. But it looks like something you'd see in Venice, except all the ground is just panels and everywhere because there is no ground. It's on a floating frame. So this is a really interesting article in the fact that everybody's looking at installing these really large solar arrays on the water. And
land is valuable.
Land has value. Well, the water has value too. But for some reason, in my mind, it seems like a really, really bad idea with all the storms and crazy things. I mean, you're actually putting your energy supply more at risk rather than mitigating risk. Yes? No? Comments?
I think it depends on the body of water.
Sure.
And if it's isolated and it's not going to fill up or something like that, maybe it's okay. I saw some ideas before where people want to do concentrating solar power to, say, focus light onto a central receiver on water. That one I was skeptical on. You get a little bit of wind, you would expect everything to not focus, right? Doing PV over water, where you have structures down into the below the water line, into the foundation, into a foundation area. I think it's okay. Floating it, it seems a little bit different.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this is talking about, is specifically floating frames.
But up until this kind of article, I think we kind of framed it with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek attitude, right? Photovoltaic, floatovvoltaics. We're using this kind of language, right? And I hadn't really, but you start to see these kind of larger installations emerging. They're actually doing this. The trade shows, they're out there pitching their products. They got these little little rafts, effectively, for they're all over the trade shows, whether it's Intersolar or SPI Vegas. But now they're talking about how this forecast for the future is actually pretty bullish. They're saying we're going to see more and more of these, which is that's the first time I heard of that.
Yeah.
Does the data indicate that it's more of an advantage to have it on a a reflective type?
Well, there are some advantages, right?
surface?
And they talk about, for example, it could stay cooler.
Yeah.
That's an advantage, right? In one little thing in a vacuum, right? And then other advantages, well, if land is hard to come by, and then you can utilize the water, then you have extra space at your disposal, right? So those are a couple of the basic advantages. But how resilient is it in storms, and how fragile might it be? To me, it's not. And also, you have depending on how the deployment works, there's discussions about retaining water. What do you call it? Keeping it from evaporating. right? So there's that discussion happening as well.
So, and what about the effects on the ecosystem of the
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if
Yeah,
you
we
have,
effectively just
waterfowl,
shaded it entire,
right,
entire
exactly.
lake. Yeah.
waterfowl. That's a great point.
That is
about
one,
that.
yeah.
For many of the projects I've developed in the past, if you have an evaporation pond, of course, what you want to keep out is the waterfowl that could become harmed, right? So you have to be careful in the idea that now you're going to cover up something that perhaps was already on, a flight track
Right.
for the avian species.
There you
So,
go.
I think everything is a balance. Nothing can be just pushed down on one side and say it's perfect. I think that there's going to be good cases for it when you're land constrained. Why not? As long as you're not creating some bigger harm. Absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll see more photovoltaics in the future. Very interesting stuff.
Rapid growth between 2018 and 2024. So when we do our fifth episode show, we'll revisit this and see what happens.
There you go.
Fifth
Fifth
annual-
year
fifth
anniversary.
year anniversary.
Okay. There's a great one out of the Washington Post saying that the U.S. just hit a major milestone for energy storage.
Yeah, the next couple articles are all about milestones. We've got huge amounts of batteries is the first thing.
Of course, with the picture of the Tesla
lithium
model.
ion, yeah. Well, Tesla finds its way into every show.
Yeah.
But lithium ion batteries grew 27% to 431 megawatt hours in 2017. Yay!
Yeah.
big round of applause. We now have storage out there, which is fantastic. But growth is expected to more than double this next year, 2018, up to 1,233 megawatt hour.
Right.
I would say that
That makes sense.
they're all probably wrong. It's probably going to do more than that.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
Unless it's capacity constrained on manufacturing. The interesting thing at this moment is that these technologies, when providing a peaking resource, which is often what we need now, something that can deliver power for, say, 4 hours, 5 hours, is becoming cheaper or is cheaper than other resources, cheaper than gas turbines. Right, and so if you were to look at like Xcel Energy in the Midwest on the mainland, they actually have published what some of those comparisons were in their recent RFPs, showing an extremely low cost for battery energy storage, standalone battery energy storage. So it's really amazing, and I think it absolutely is going to take off.
That's interesting because Eric Hittinger, with a tapped from Rochester Institute of Technology, actually disagrees. It seems a little optimistic.
Oh yeah. It seems like the forecasts tend to be conservative across the board for renewables. Would you agree with that?
I would say that no one ever believed that you would have photovoltaic panels, photovoltaic.
Yeah.
That's what's really messing me up now.
Put that in your mind.
Thanks a lot for that.
Sure.
At the scale that we have today, we're talking about something that went, to a total install probably on Lanai, that early project, at $12,000 a kilowatt. Right. On the mainland, you could probably build something, between $900 and $1,100 a kilowatt. We're talking about a dramatic price decrease, and it's also what helped make it, proliferate throughout rooftop space. So I think we shouldn't bet against technology and advancement.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely in a kind of really exciting time right now. So maybe it'll be far more aggressive. And then when we talk about peaking, we just want to maybe explain a little bit of what we mean by peaking, right? So can you give us our listeners an explanation of how that operates?
Absolutely. So a lot of people are probably familiar with what's called the duck curve. It was coined by the California Independent System Operator. It was this idea that in the middle of the day, the utility is going to have to supply less and less net load to the consumer because there's a lot of other generation on the grid. What happens though, you see this big peak come up and then come down, and it's like when everybody got home, everybody turned on their air conditioner. Perhaps in the future they all plug in their electric car, they started dinner, and there's a period of time on every grid that there is a peak. We don't really operate in this firm base load concept anymore. Those aren't the resources that are typically needed on most grids anymore. Peaking is trying to provide a resource during those hours.
So these batteries, they kind of mitigate that problem, right?
Yes, you can essentially be storing the energy, during any other time, and then delivering that energy back out onto the grid during these 4 hours. That's one way to mitigate that. Another way to mitigate that is through demand response. The utility, as you probably have seen, has a demand response program. It's been moving forward. I actually have been talking with Don Guzman about this one. We've been working to get the county more into this because it saves in two ways. Essentially, what you're doing is you're reducing your load to the grid, getting compensated by some amount by the utility to do that, and then they're able to manage that peak without having to install new generators. So the utility was looking at, about a year and a half ago, installing 5 megawatts of diesel generators on Maui on a temporary basis. They may still need to do something like that to deal with it, but what we're doing as part of the county is saying, how can we adjust how we operate our system, even without a battery, to do exactly the same thing? So there's going to be this mix in the future between demand response, batteries, all sorts of things like that to manage this so that you're not making another investment in the grid that you can do through a services contract on a cheaper basis.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. Thank you
Nice.
so much for
Yeah,
that
we
explanation.
actually through Fred's diligent work, we looked at the county saying, okay, look, how can we actually save money instead of having to cut the budget, cut employees, cut salaries,
Right.
cut benefits, cut social services. Did you know we never did an energy audit in the entire history of county?
No
of the
kidding.
county
No
until
kidding.
we just completed it last summer.
Yes,
remarkable.
And we focused on the War Memorial Stadium
Yep.
and the facilities.
I remember when War Memorial was on there was an RFP, a countywide RFP, maybe about 7 years ago or something, and we did layouts and everything for the War Memorial. But that's a huge energy use site.
And
right?
then Fred, we were able to RFP with request for services, got a bid, got an audit team came in, and
Yeah.
it was like a savings of 1.2 million.
That's amazing.
We could save as long as we made the adjustments
over
But-
like a lifespan, over like
Yes.
a 20-year lifespan.
Yeah,
or
so
something?
so the if
no,
we
it was yearly.
Annual.
No,
Annually,
that was
yeah.
that was the total benefit. I think
Oh, the total, yeah.
the annual benefit was about $150,000
Right.
if you made all these investments. But
Right.
most of them had a very short payback.
Yeah.
Because it's
Like
a lot of
like
old
1 or
equipment.
2 year payback
Some
kind
of them,
stuff.
some
right?
of them were
Yeah.
absolutely 1 and 2 years. I was
Lighting
like,
and things
yeah.
of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's simple things to do that that it's just really, do we have it in the budget? Because the way things are budgeted is, how much money do you have that you could spend?
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to look at ways of being able to do that. And we're looking at doing another one. Councilman Guzman says, well, what are you doing next? Well,
Right.
I think we're gonna go look at the police station, right? And
Right.
and so I've been talking to the police chief and trying to see, can we look at that facility, because it has some uniquenesses that
Yep.
we can transport what we learned a lot from the War Memorial facility to other facilities and make
Definitely.
that savings. But let's see what else we can learn too, given its
Yeah.
uniqueness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because we're only talking about one facility. Now, what happens to the various other departments? And within those departments, we have multiple facilities, right? So you add up all those savings. Gosh, we could be.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's
huge.
huge. It's
I
huge.
love the way you tied the conversation about not making cuts to various services within the community to the energy audit and to the changes in how we use energy and the types of efficiencies of systems we deploy. Because one of the really cool takeaways I got from the show with Mayor Alan Arakawa was this notion of, if we can own our own energy, it's not like a small or kind of an ancillary or a side conversation or even one of many conversations. It's almost like one of the biggest conversations, because when you think about it over the lifespan of systems, the notion of exporting that money either in kilowatt hour payments to like another like a NextEra, for example, or exporting it in petrodollars for fossil fuels, it's a huge loss of wealth for the county. Right, but if we can make those efficiency measures building by building, institution by institution, it is literally saving people from having cuts to the social services and things that you mentioned.
Yes,
I mean, it's exactly the point that I got from the conversation with the mayor.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I looked at the numbers, but when I first started coming out to Hawaii to see what could I do here, right? I think it was in 2006 to 2008 timeframe. Hawaii was exporting more than $5 billion a year for fuel.
$5 billion. Oof, that's amazing. That's a lot of loot.
And where are we today?
We're not much. Well, I think we're lower than that because of the price of oil.
Right.
And you are seeing decreases in the amounts that we have to import for certain things like electricity, right? Because we have a regulation to start to push that down.
Right.
What we haven't made a big move on yet is transportation.
Right.
And so.
Although that's in the works, isn't it? I mean, I've understood
Absolutely.
there's
Oh, yeah.
there's a
I mean, definitely. you have some countries that are already they have a full-on electric buses. Our
I
bus
just came back
system.
from Japan.
Yes. I would love to get them.
Oh, we need electric
coming over here.
buses.
The
No
electric
doubt.
Yes, we
buses.
No
need
doubt.
electric buses. Well,
They're
from what I
fully
understood,
functional,
yeah, from what I understood, there's a serious push to do electrification of public transport. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Actually, Honolulu's
yeah,
starting it.
yeah.
Whoa.
And
that's-
so, this coming Tuesday at the councilman's committee, PRL, if you want to try that acronym out, we'll be reviewing the alternative vehicle assessment that was done to make a first understanding of where we're going to go next on transportation. What vehicles can we get going? And we looked at the fiscal year 2018 budget. We'll need to make another study to make all the pathways to 2035, 2045, and what we're going to do. But we're actively seeking funding. Many people don't know it, but we're actually looking at an electric bus too. And so we've
right.
Yes.
I don't know how many are familiar with the Volkswagen settlement funding. I was an owner of one of those
right,
turbo diesels.
right.
I loved that car.
Oh,
no. But I did sell it back. It was a very high NOx polluter. And but ultimately the settlements that come to all the states, Hawaii will get about $8.125 million for mitigation. That is going to be managed by the Hawaii State Energy Office. All of the counties are looking at, what's the best way to use that for mitigation. We want to do a couple different things, but one of them includes, mixing in to our fleet of, Bronco buses, one unicorn, right? And hopefully, that experiment goes well and nobody ridicules the unicorn. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going, it's a really cool idea. When our transportation department looked at the electric bus, they open it up and say, I don't have all these problems back here to deal with. I don't have this exhaust system. I don't have that problem. So although it's unique, now it's interesting. Now it might be a savings in the long run on maintenance. Who knows? But we need to figure out how this can work.
Yeah, that's a biggie. From what I understand, the maintenance costs are lower. Total cost of ownership is lower over the traditional diesels.
You can also think of the bus as a bit of a storage solution too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It may provide some services. Right now the whole bus fleet parks overnight, and collects dust. Right. We're going to have to charge those at night, but at the same time, they're going to be able to provide some services. So it might be that we have now this asset that we build up that has value overnight, that's managing some things, ultimately reaches the morning charged, but also provided good scheduled load, for the utility to use or to deliver to, that helps them manage their operations. So there's a lot of efficiencies you can get when you start to do that.
It's awesome.
Nice.
Works on so many levels.
Okay, so Jay, what do you think about our news and events? I knew we were going to kind of jump right into the conversations here.
Yeah, let's knock these out really quick. Like I said, we were talking about total milestones.
Right,
hit.
like big ones that have been happening.
Big ones.
Yeah.
I like this one because we are so far beyond it. And yet, solar rises to nearly 2% of U.S. generation in 2017. Where are we? We're at
What do you mean, Hawaii?
Maui County.
Oh,
Maui
from the
County.
total
Solar exclusively is in the 20s, right?
Yeah, somewhere in the 20s. But
Yeah.
the middle of the day from instantaneous generation, I thought that that you're getting about 92 megawatts of generation over 160. So a massive amount. The nighttime load that the utility, or the daytime load that the utility delivers in the last few months has been lower than the nighttime load, which is
Whoa.
just so different. And it's really it's a sign of success. And a lot of people look at this as this is a problem. I think you have to find the solutions to make sure that it moves forward properly. But it's a sign of a success for sure.
Okay.
Excellent.
So leading the way out here in Hawaii, right? So,
Absolutely, by far.
and what else? We also had something. Was it California had something? It's
And
actually
California
just what
actually
I think you were
set
talking about, because they were talking about the peak daytime, right? Right, Jay?
Yep, California also set 2 new records. 49.95% at 12:58 p.m. So that's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So pretty much 50% of their total energy need was generated through solar.
So I guess they'll soon catch up to us.
Yeah, they're getting there.
Not bad, California. You're doing a good job.
Yeah,
Just
we'll
take a look at
we'll
Maui.
cheer them on.
Very good.
Josh, you want to take the next one, because this is right up your
Yeah,
alley here.
this is something that, and actually I mentioned it. So this article here is from PVMagazineUSA.com, And the title says IRS rules energy storage upgrade to solar ITC eligible. And what does that mean? I mean, well, what they're talking about in this article is effectively that you can put in a solar system, and then later on down the road, you could get ready for batteries and put them in maybe like, and I'm not sure exactly the time frame, let's say within a year.
It does say more than 1 year. It doesn't say how many more.
And it looks like it was a letter, so you can take that battery and then you could take the ITC on it.
Right.
The 30% federal tax credit, right? And that was something that was never really clear. There was a discussion about it, but it looks like it was in a private letter ruling published on Friday. The IRS said that a battery added to a solar PV system a full year after solar installation was completed is eligible for the full 30% ITC, as long. Here's the caveat, right?
Yeah.
Well, we already kind of knew this, but as long as it is 100% powered by solar. Now, that's an important thing, right? But so what do you think about that? I mean, geez.
So the the private ruling letter, of course, that's something that it's going to be bankable. You're essentially saying that I'm going to get this treatment by the IRS.
Right.
In the past, of course, a new construction with solar and storage would have been eligible. I think the retrofit is what people worried about.
Correct.
The interesting part, and I hadn't had a chance to read that yet, about the 100%. It used to be that at least 90% of it had to be charged by renewable energy, and so it seems like that part changed some. You would just get a discount on the ITC. If you did like 90% down to 70, I think was what you had to do before. So this is a little bit of a change. I haven't had a chance to really review it.
Yeah, it's exciting, and from a perspective of a solar guy, okay, a guy in the field out here trying to put solar systems into people's homes. We were always trying to model this and go, well, how do we get batteries into people's homes now? Because everybody, 1 out of 5 people has a solar system here in Maui. Right? You talk to people, hey, do you have a solar system? You ask 5 people, you're going to find 1 or 2 that do, and it usually seems like more actually, right?
Yeah.
And we're doing it in the mall now as we're accosting people. But the notion was put in extra solar and put in a battery so they can harvest full tax credits. But what this clarifies here is that someone could say, you know what, I got plenty of solar. I don't need any extra generation, but I do want a battery backup and I can still take the tax credit.
I think that's, I mean, in terms of getting some kind of incentive, I mean, you have the federal level and the state, but we don't have on the county level.
Right.
And that's wherein lies the issues. Is like I'm referring to the legal part of my committee, we still have the wind turbines in litigation.
Right.
And that was because we were initially taxing them as a real property tax.
Okay.
And they were coming in saying, no, it's personal tax, like in other jurisdictions. So there was this big litigation, and we're still pending.
Okay.
So, and the reason why the county wants to claim it as real property tax is that's how we get our revenue. It's all on real property tax.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no tax incentive. They come here, they do business.
Right.
What's the benefit for the companies that come?
So
So
we need
I
to
think that we really
incentivize.
need to incentivize,
Mm-mm.
not punish them, but incentivize them to come and do business here.
I mean, I'm a big believer in government support on various levels. I never even thought actually on a county level. That's a really interesting
Yeah, we
conversation.
don't
point.
have any incentives.
Yeah, so trying to attract
And is
support.
that gonna?
In
is that
fact, we're
gonna
trying to
affect the
tax
new-
them more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that going to affect the new RFP?
Oh, well, I mean,
Bids?
I guess there aren't any existing incentives, right, from the county level.
So
Is that correct, Fred?
Well, they're going to look at this.
Yeah, I have to look at from the real property tax. I'm not sure on the commercial aspect of an independent power producer. If you put solar on your home, though, you don't get assessed for the value of the solar system and the determination of the value of your property. That part,
So that-
That's
that
on
part's-
like a residential type,
Right,
but
right.
I was more on the commercial
Yeah.
side.
Sure.
So-
Like, how do we bring the big companies here to actually generate?
Yeah,
the
and we're
energy?
definitely in their sights right now. The big companies there are not unfamiliar with Hawaii and Maui, right? And then actually right now, I don't know if we're in that stage of the news and events. Maybe we could skip the we go to the Hawaii part, Jay, for a moment, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
One of the major companies out here. Well, I know it from heart here. Haleakala Solar was just purchased by Peterson Dean. And Peterson Dean, and I'm not too familiar with roofing and solar contractors in the mainland, so I looked them up and I called a couple of friends, and I was like, "Whoa, these guys got some muscle." I mean, this is a serious company. Like 3,000 employees. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. And so they're doing a tremendous amount of business. So they're definitely interested in being a part of this revolution. And in some of the articles in the press releases that we were looking at here, they're talking. It was like, why would you do this? Well, all of the templates are being designed now. All of learning how to interact with on-grid batteries, learning how to sell solar in this environment. It's all being defined here. And so we need to be a part of that revolution. And I think they're looking, hey, we'll be a part of this, and then we'll bring it back to the rest of the country. That's my take on it. Anyway.
Are they going to come for our energy conference next week?
Good question. I don't know.
I didn't see him on the list.
Okay.
You can put out an invite right now.
Yeah, let's put out an invite. I just tried to friend the CEO of Peterson Dean. So
And we can see if we can get
on
him
LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family. Come on out.
Come on out, guys. Come
Well,
on
no, I
out,
mean,
guys.
this is where we're, like we said, this is where we're doing the research, and yeah, I can absolutely understand that they want to be out here.
Yeah. Jay, which one do you want to handle next? We had so many news articles.
There's
this
so
one, and
much going
Yeah.
on.
Do you want to do the consumer cost shift one for national?
Yeah, let's do that real
Yeah.
quick. So,
This is the important one.
Yeah, do so. There's this myth going around. Do solar consumers create a cost shift to non-solar consumers? Is what this article is all about.
It's a big conversation point.
And it's a myth that seems to be perpetuated by utilities around the nation. So that every time someone puts solar on their house, well, there's some kind of mooch, and now they're not paying anymore, and we need to charge you more because we need to keep up our infrastructure.
Really?
They're still connected, but they're not paying us, right? So that's a problem. Now, a number of research organizations have gone out there with the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory just released their study, and the numbers are really, really interesting. The basic answer is no, not a chance.
Well, at least from this article.
At least from this article, well, from the Berkeley report, right? But the number is really interesting. Where was it? It was like 1/1000th of a cent per kilowatt hour or per kilowatt that was actually
That's not
added.
zero.
It's not.
Very good,
It's
very
not. It's not zero, but it is such an infinitesimally small number. I mean, to put that in perspective, my house is 4. So 2, 4, 20, 2 100ths. 2 100ths of a cent I cost everybody else. And it's not.
So does that hold
That's
true though
not a
in
big
the
number.
islands on a smaller level, on
Well,
a micro
I
level?
think that's
Yeah.
that's the part that you have to think about, right? And it's likely a part of why the Public Utility Commission only allowed for a certain amount of net energy metered projects at 100% net energy meter value, right? So it's really, what is that dollar credit that you're getting to do it? In the first increment, when there's still a load in the middle of the day for the utility to serve, right? You can imagine that a little extra capacity in there is reducing the amount that the utility has to do, right? Now take that to the other extreme, because I'm an engineer. I kind of look at, okay, how am I going to bookend this equation? I could say, well, okay, now I get to the point where I have to install a battery to absorb that energy, or change my operations of these diesel engines, that they're still in diesel engines at the moment. All of that investment and all that operation cost is borne by someone, and whoever's paying for the grid, right? So there's a balance. It's how much. There's no, let's say there's no continuum of this is the answer. 0.00 or 0.000 cent per kilowatt hour wouldn't be the same for every single mathematical solution, right? For sure, it's a benefit. It's reduced the amount of imported fuel. And I usually give people this other example, though. I usually use either Starbucks or a grocery store. So which one you want?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, okay. Somebody goes into Starbucks and they put this cup on the counter and they say, fill it up. I'd like that. And they give you a discount, 10 cents. Let's call it net energy metering, right? Now, that person might say, I'm wealthy enough to own a coffee maker. I'm going to fill up the cup and I'm going to go to Starbucks. And I'm going to use the air conditioner, use the creamer, use the bathroom, but I'm not going to pay anything at the register, right?
Yeah.
Now, at some point, if somebody's using all those resources, somebody has to pay for it. The person that wasn't wealthy enough to buy the coffee maker too, right? And so there's a balance in there. At some increment, it's beneficial. People are contributing. They're part of that system. At another increment, it's not. It may be detrimental, right? So it has to be a balance. And I hope that our utility always takes that into consideration. The Public Utility Commission always takes that into consideration. That's kind of why I like, community-based renewable energy, another initiative that we're trying to move forward, right? There's many people who are paying for the utility out there that are in a condo, they can't afford the home, they rent the home. They need to have access to solar power because that's really ultimately going to be beneficial for all of us. And so
Absolutely.
I want to find ways to make those projects so cheap that they're the next thing for tomorrow, right? And so we're looking at how can the county provide land to do those sorts of projects. How can the county guarantee the revenue of that by subscribing one of their own meters, right? And it might really take off. And then working with the with the county, how do we get the low to moderate income people into those programs so they aren't left behind? So we absolutely are sure, and there isn't this debate about somebody being left behind, but there's
Right.
absolutely an equal system.
It's a great response, and I think that's really amazing about that. We're talking about the democratization of renewable energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really exciting because I haven't met a person yet, no matter who they are and what side of the political spectrum, that isn't really excited about solar energy. Everybody loves it, right? It's a cool thing. So we actually have one of those articles, but we are still kind of a little bit far behind on our news and events.
really.
So why don't we do this? We got to run our commercials, and we'll come back, and we can just kind of go free form, just like we've been doing. Have fun. with it.
Good enough.
It's
All right.
fun.
Aloha and welcome to Maui Solar Project. It is easy to feel rejuvenated just stepping outside on a magnificent Hawaiian day. Maui Solar Project is here to help harness that energy you feel in your body and use it to power your homes and businesses. As lore tells us, Maui harnessed the sun so as to slow its path across the sky. Join Maui Solar Project as we harness the sun's energy and slow Hawaii's dependence on fossil fuels. Call Maui Solar Project at 269-2352. MauiSolarProject.org.
Tsubuchi Electric, a leading worldwide inverter manufacturer, presents the second generation of the eco-intelligent battery system, the IBIS. Tsubuchi's grid-friendly system includes a high-efficiency inverter, stackable batteries, and integration with Jelly software for the most adaptable battery storage system on the market. The system is optimized for energy management and cost performance. Maximize your solar investment with Tsubuchi's electric eco-intelligent battery system.
The Sonnen Battery Eco is an energy storage solution that utilizes intelligent energy management software. The system is available in a variety of storage capacities and allows for expansion. Sonnen Battery Eco allows you to save money by harvesting energy from your solar PV system and using that stored energy when rates are more expensive. Sonnen Battery Eco is specifically designed to provide you and your family peace of mind in the event of power outage. Our unique power detection system will sense outages in real time and automatically switch over to battery power. See Sonnen Battery Eco at sonnen-battery.com.
MIT founded Pika Energy, makers of the Pika Energy Island, a smart energy management system that uses solar panels, lithium batteries, and intelligence to manage your energy and keep you powered even during outages. With a clean, intelligent alternative to grid power, you're in control of your energy future. Pika's Energy Island lets you manage electrical costs with HECO-ready self-supply functions. Pika's largest battery, the Harbor Plus, offers 16 kilowatt hours of stored energy and can power loads of up to 10 kilowatts. And if you need more capacity, just add a second or even third Harbor Smart battery to the same system for a maximum of 48 kilowatt hours of usable storage. Pika Energy, own your power. To learn more, visit pika-energy.com.
Sundrum Solar is the manufacturer of a revolutionary thermal collector that fits on the underside of your standard PV panel to maximize energy capture per square foot. The Sundrum Solar Hybrid PVT system, combined photovoltaic and thermal, holds the world record for peak hour efficiency, capturing an astounding 86% usable energy. Learn how Sundrum Solar vastly improves electric, heating, and cooling economics at sundrumsolar.com.
All right, those are great commercials from our sponsors. Thank you so much, sponsors, for helping us out and keep this thing running forward.
Yeah, again, many mahalos to the sponsors for keeping us on the air.
All right, so we got so into conversation earlier in our news and events that we kind of like we're gonna. I think we'll skip a couple of those, Jay. What do you say?
We're gonna have
and
to
we'll jump
continue
right
on.
into our main product focus at 1:45. So we have Councilman Don Guzman, and we have the Renewable Energy Commissioner Fred Redell here. And, I wanted to get a little bit of an intro and a background on you both and how you kind of found yourselves in these commissions related to energy. And maybe we could get a little bit of a little bit of an intro if you don't mind. Yeah.
I got involved in it because I elected on the council, and then every council member has subject matters, and then They basically, I had energy, agriculture, economic development, and legal affairs, and so they just switched me around, and I still have energy. So I've had energy ever since I've been on the council.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so not that I an expert in it, but I find it very interesting, at least on the legal side of it.
Right.
There's a lot of opinions and commissions from the public utility.
And you're an
sector.
attorney by trade.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I find that in the energy industry, attorneys they're actually a really important part of that process. And I'll see webinars and things of that nature. I'll say webinars for attorneys in the industry and webinars for non-attorneys. So it's
well, I mean, it's just a growing field because of the fact that there's so much new technology, and how do you keep up with the regulations?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
how about you, Fred?
Sure. Well, my background, I started out in nuclear power on submarines a long time ago. And then I did some other stuff between there. And then, I think in 2005 or 4, I started coming out to Hawaii on the advice of a friend, and that I should come here and see what I could do with solar power, because I was at that time developing some of the larger solar projects that were in California. Long before everybody knew how to spell solar, I guess. So those projects didn't die off, and then came out to Hawaii many times here to Maui to try to do projects, and I just found it very interesting, and and a really interesting dynamic on how things have moved here. And a few years back, the mayor asked if I wanted to come out and join him to help guide the direction, and then I met Don Guzman, and he's always been supportive of the energy things that I've been pushing. Thoughtful about letting me into the committee, make sure we're educating the public and educating the council on the different initiatives. So I've always appreciated that.
From a perspective of someone that's been in the industry back in California doing these big systems, how do you view Maui? What does Maui look like to you in the energy industry? What role does it play in the general industry? And I tend to think of it in certain ways, and we laud Maui all the time. It's such a wonderful place. It's the tip of the spear. It's the future of. I mean, is that do you share that perspective?
Yeah, it's not a huge market, but it's somewhere where you can prove something. It's if you look at Molokai, it's an extremely interesting grid. The grid there, right? What are they doing now, or what are they looking at now? They're looking at putting in a load bank to try to manage that grid, because it has a lot of photovoltaic on the grid. It has a very low inertia per megawatt, so not a whole lot of spinning mass at every moment to stabilize the frequency. And so they're like, hey, now we have to do something new. We have to come up with a solution. Let's try this load bank. I'm like, oh, so you're going to put a toaster in the forest to control your grid? But it's needed. It's something, it sounds crazy, right? We're all focused on this thing on top of the grid, or top of the house, or the solar panel. But there's so much that goes into making the grid operate, and so that's what I really like about it, because there's all sorts of innovation that's going to come out. What I would really like to see are more companies getting involved in that innovation. And that's part of what we're going to hopefully see some more at the Maui Energy Conference, And I still think if we're going to be this experiment out in Hawaii, that the ratepayers, who often are, sort of the subjects of the test, if you will, that somebody comes in and does with the utility, somehow some of that value, besides just being part of that experiment, being on the leading edge, has to come to the ratepayers. And I would like to really see some sort of for-benefit sort of idea, being out on that leading edge. Why aren't we talking about that? Why aren't we getting, if we're part of that experiment, and then you leave us your leftovers,
great point.
Why aren't we actually seeing something, here?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've gone on record saying that we are the petri dish.
Right.
And exactly that. But I've never actually thought about that. That's an interesting kind of. Well, of course, I don't pay.
Yeah, this comes back to the conversation about companies coming out here and wanting to participate in this. Like Peterson Dean bought Haleakala, not because it's a huge market, not because there's a massive amount of people to sell to, but because what's happening here is going to be relevant to the rest of the country.
Yeah, this is where they learn how to do the things that they're going to have to do over the next 20 years.
And so maybe they should give us a little bit of support for that.
Well, if they're, what would be interesting if I wanted to buy a company that did a lot of rooftop solar here, is that I have access to every single one of those customers, right? If they're going to deploy new technologies, that that agreement probably has that company being the one that's deploying those new technologies. So there's a second door, into the market that's going to open up as opportunities open up. And, so it makes a lot of sense to me. That would be my guess. I have no idea for sure. I'm just looking at it as a business sort of guy saying, hey, what's the value, right? Some people might say, well, they're not doing a lot of rooftop solar. And I'm like, well, but they have a bunch of customers, and there's new technologies that are going to be deployed.
Hey, Don, what do you think about? I mean, did you ever think? I mean, were you born and raised in Maui? Did you grow up here?
I was born in the Philippines, and then my father we immigrated to Honolulu, and then he was in the Air Force, and then I spent my grade school and part of my middle school traveling around, and then finally got back.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in the early years of looking at Maui, right? You've been a community leader for many years now. Did you think that something like this would happen to Maui, where it would become this kind of template for something like renewable energy?
Absolutely not.
Right?
I mean,
it wasn't on our radar.
No,
right?
it wasn't on our radar at all. And I think the fact that our Office of Economic Development started this energy conference, and it's in its third year, I believe.
And this is next week.
Yeah,
right?
next week, and we've brought.
This is a great one.
Yeah, and have you ever attended?
Oh, I have. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's great. You have people from all over the world and international.
CEO of Mercedes, Boris Borman, I think is
Yeah.
his name, is going to be there, and there's like just a rundown, a laundry list of all the really kind of amazing people in the industry.
Yeah, it's just the opportunities. I mean, you have the sun, you have the water, you have all the resources here. It's just a matter of it's a microcosm that you can actually just try. It's like, you're right, we are a test field, but once it does fly, I mean, you actually can get the raw data immediately.
I find it interesting because I tend to think of it, Jay, like it's not what people are thinking about Maui when they come here. Because we get 2 million people, 2.5 million people coming annually, something like that. So when they're coming here, they're thinking, I assume they're thinking, beaches in Maui and all the beautiful, wonderful things about Maui. But there's this whole other side of it that these visitors could be seeing, and then going back to their respective environments around the world, and maybe they'd be inspired. Let's face it, when people come to Maui, they're inspired, right? When they come here, they're blown away. I mean, that's pretty much the standard, right?
Yeah.
So if they could be blown away by not just how beautiful it is and all the great natural resources, but also how amazing the renewable energy deployment is, I think that could be a really great thing.
Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand because look, we're dependent currently on tourism, and we need to make sure that we are self-sufficient, and we're energy saving, and we're renewable. So it all goes hand in hand,
right?
We can't have an island and all of a sudden we're using cogen and we're
in fact it potentially preserves all the great assets that for the reason that people come here in the first place, right? So okay, well, let's we did have Maui, the energy conference, on our list, so let's give it its due kind of course. We're at 53 right now, but so what should we tell the community, what should we inform the community about the energy conference?
Well, it's the topic this year is decarbonization, and it's the idea here is the innovation and the business opportunity around that. So I think that's really an exciting idea. What you might have seen recently in the new tax bill is carbon credits. I don't know if people actually noticed that was buried in there.
I didn't.
Great. For either sequestration or for something that works in a cycle, like say biofuels. And that idea, that when we first started the conference, there wasn't, a market for it. You're really trying to do something, and then you're reducing carbon. But if you're getting a price for it, I don't know if that price is right or not, but if you're getting a price for it, you're going to start somewhere, and people are going to look at that and say, hey, I might make a choice now, right? So the conference is exploring decarbonization. There's a panel that I'm doing on venture capital and looking at that opportunity. We're doing reverse pitches with the Elemental Accelerator, where we're saying, hey, we've got this problem. Here are some of my data. I'm looking for solutions to be better in all sorts of ways, and not just making it, hey, I just want to decarbonize. Well, that's just such an easy thing. You just go get this magic thing over here, and you're done. No, the idea is, the police force, of course, still wants to be effective. The police force still wants to have officer safety, let's say. But they also would like to reduce their carbon emissions. They want to be efficient because, as the councilman was saying, in the future, we need to make sure that we can pay for everything, right? And so we need to find those, and so there's this intersection there of decarbonization and perhaps being more efficient. And so that's one of the reverse pitches you'll hear from the police chief. It should be very exciting.
That sounds great. I can't wait to go next week. It's gonna be
Right
a lot
on.
of fun. Yeah, amazing stuff. So we had
Wish I could.
Yeah,
I'll come.
we're working. We got 4 minutes, gentlemen.
All right.
So I had this idea here. So we got right after this, we're gonna boogie over to Miko because they have their 2 p.m. to explain their new programs, right?
Yep.
So I wanted to just kind of ask some questions and maybe get some quick fire responses if that's okay, right? So we got this. Let's focus on the utility side,
Yep,
okay?
done.
Make sure we get that out of the way. So we have a CSS program. That's the on-grid kind of self-supply program. Any thoughts about that program from either of your perspectives?
I would say that it still is an interesting vehicle. Maybe the price is still high at a residential point for a lot of people to jump in, but I think that's almost like the model that they're talking about in the power supply improvement plan into the future, where 100% of all the energy from all the houses is going to come from the houses. They're just really going to manage the services. Here, you need to manage the services with your battery. So it's an interesting point.
Okay, 3 minutes, right?
Sure.
How about CGS Plus? That's one of the new ones. That's a backfeeding program that we got right now. Any thoughts on that one?
This is where you're getting some amount of credit for what goes out onto the grid.
Yep.
Correct.
It just really, again, it's a number saying what value are you getting for that energy that you're putting out onto the grid. It's interesting. It's like net energy metering at a very reduced price.
Right,
or
that's what you
value.
got. We're trying to figure out if we can incorporate batteries to CGS Plus. We think there's a little bit of an opportunity there, right? And it looks like you can.
Like if you do it, it's essentially the next one you're going to talk about, which is
Smart export. Smart export. So this is where you can actually gain some revenue from the assets that you have.
Yeah, the idea there, exporting at the right time and getting more value is another great thing. So I think all of this really is showing this shift, right? And the more and more that you can get that into the market, the more it can't be ignored, right?
Yeah.
And the more that we have to find the solution to be able to adopt all these things at the right price.
Right. Amazing. How about NEM expansion? That's a really important one because a lot of people, maybe about 13, 14, 15,000 people have NEM net metering systems. And now we have this, I think there's a basic clarification kind of still pending on how it should operate, but we have an understanding that you can expand your NEMs as long as they're non-export. Thought about that at all?
So what you're saying is that, this one I haven't really researched very much. But adding to that system as an prior independent power producer, of course, if I extended or added to my system at the price that I had arranged for in a contract a while ago, I would likely have issues with the utility that I was selling power to, right? However, it's really what are we talking about here? Are we talking about, as you said, as long as you're not exporting, that's going to be the debatable part. I think that you still should, because you want to be able to control your energy.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do something like that. Just has to fit
And
in.
energy use has changed over time, and we didn't have 10 years ago when early NEMs were installed. First of all, the equipment has degraded over 10 years, but you also didn't have the plethora of electric vehicles out there that you do now, and these are huge energy.
Well, there's part
monsters.
of the code. There's a county code that actually says if you export,
Yeah.
you now become almost like a utility.
Oh, and you're subject to those laws, right?
yes,
That's the
right.
whole wheeling
Yes,
conversation.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
If wheeling goes through,
so
we're in
our
good shape.
own provisions in our code need to be amended
Gotcha.
to accommodate that type of.
I'll tell you what, gentlemen, the mark of a good show is when you don't have enough time to finish the most basic. We really got into it right away. I really appreciate you coming on board the Solar Coaster and sharing your knowledge and your experience and your vision for the future.
Certainly come back.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot more to talk about. Hey, folks, this has been the Solar Coaster. We're a renewable energy themed talk show right here in lovely Maui County, sponsored by Maui Solar Project, Tabuchi Electric America, Sonnen Battery, Pika Energy, and Sundrum Solar. Thank you, sponsors. It's been a great show, guys.
Have a lovely weekend.
Have a great weekend. Aloha, everybody.